welcome to Let's Talk to Animals. My name is Shannon. I'm an animal sensitive and intuitive and animal communicator here at animallovelanguages.com. This resonant little fellow is Pearl Cutts, and he is my 23-year-old, perfectly precious co-host and feathered sidekick. He never misses an episode, especially when it comes with a chance to screech and blow out mommy's headphones, right? You're trying very hard to capture audio. And those of you who are watching will understand why that sometimes presents a special challenge. So here at Let's Talk to Animals, we are all about de-wooing animal communication, interspecies communication. We're all about demystifying it, talking about what it is, how it works, who can do it, how to learn, how to work with animal communicators. Perhaps the reason that you've chosen to listen to Let's Talk to Animals instead of, get fit and fabulous by 50, or how to do a 4-day work week, or fabulous recipes for Thanksgiving. Maybe the reason that you're listening is because talking with your pet or talking with wild animals you care about is on your bucket list. Maybe you feel like you're a secret sensitive yourself, and you're kind of wondering if the trees are really talking to you because you feel like you keep getting messages. Perhaps you're just passionate about animals and you want to learn more about their world and what it's like to be in their bodies and experience life from an interspecies perspective. All of those reasons and more attract listeners to our podcast and our blogcast on YouTube, and we're so grateful for the gift of your time and your interest. Today, I've invited a wonderful interspecies communicator, author, homeopathic practitioner, and intuitive energy practitioner, Donna Lozito, who is here with us today. And welcome, Donna. So grateful to have you.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for having me. I so appreciate this opportunity to help folks better understand the nature of this type of communication with their animals. So it's really a pleasure to be here.
Well, and for those of you who are watching the vlogcast version on YouTube, you are getting, your eyes are full of some really amazing art, pictures of some really beautiful animals. I'm going to just go out on a limb and guess that the horse is your spirit animal. You have some amazing. So those of you who are watching the podcast, you might want to head on over to our YouTube channel. That's just SM Cuts, and you can find these amazing pictures of these beautiful horses. And also it looks like there's some special precious pups in the picture. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your art if we have time.
I will absolutely explain some of them. I'm really interesting background. Yeah.
Yes, but first of all, I just want to share, because sometimes I forget and I really don't want to. You can find Donna at Donna, D-O-N-N-A, Lozito, Lozito.com. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you like to work with folks and their animals at the end of the show. But, here at the beginning, as we start down the path that is your life today as an interspecies communicator, I always like to invite my guests to just rewind us a little, share, how did you come to discover that this is possible? How woo was it when you started? How did you handle that and kind of unfold and start to really trust that this is a life path for you, that this is something that your heart cannot live without? Because I feel like a lot of our listeners and viewers are somewhere in that process, and it really helps to hear from those of us who've been there and have found a way through to really honor who they are and what they're most passionate about in life.
Absolutely. As a child, I was very empathic, as most children are, and I was able to, at the time, hear and feel and sense what the animals were thinking, but back in the day, it was not something, it was something that was definitely shut down.
Yeah.
But this passion that I had, it just followed me right through to when I got my horse, who's behind me. Sweet Dreams is his name.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was his name when I got him, and it was such a sweet dream for me to actually, I was so passionate about horses that I just couldn't explain it. And when I finally got him and we started on this path together, it really at at that time, it wasn't so much about animal communication as I thought I was going to become Jackie O and ride and show, and, you know, and he shows up injured out of the blue, seriously injured, where they were telling me he'll never jump again, and you should get rid of him. And I was, get rid of him. This is, and so I started down this path unknowingly, actually, because it was a path of wanting to be a professional rider. And I ended up becoming a professional healer as a result of this journey. And so in this injury, no one could figure out why his leg was not healing. He was not healing. And I managed, he, after the fact, said to me that he guided me to pick up a magazine that said, you know, you can just talk to your animal and here's how you do it. And so I asked him, and I said, sweetie, what's with the leg? Why isn't the leg healing? And he said to me, and this is the moment that I knew I would be doing this for a lifetime career. He said to me, it's, you know, all of the vets, they keep looking at my leg. It's not my leg that's the problem. It's my immune system. And if you boost my immune system, my leg will heal. I was
Donna.
so stunned by this information from this being. And how much sense did he make? How many vets did I speak to that never mentioned his immune system and never. And so I was just so flabbergasted. And with that, I went up and down the East Coast looking for holistic veterinarians that, this is 30 years ago, that would listen to my horse. And I actually found a vet. And she said, oh, of course, we'll boost his immune system. And so I bring him down to Pennsylvania, and lo and behold, she followed his directions and he got better. And in that moment, I knew that I needed to do this for a living. I mean, I was really feeling my way through the whole journey, and the journey just grew and grew and grew. And then he became ill with a brain tumor.
Oh my goodness, Donna.
He had said to me, you know, do not give me the medicine, because they wanted me to give me the medicine. And each time they told me that he was going to die if I didn't do what they said. And this was a turning point for me in my life, because it was listen to the vet or listen to the horse. And the horse said to me, no, no, no medication. Do not give me that medication, because if you do, we're going to have two problems. We're going to have the one we already had, and then we're going to have a reaction to the medicine. So go find another way to do this. And I was quite hysterical, and I found homeopathic medicine with which we cured this guy of a brain tumor. And so in that, I knew I had to start studying homeopathic medicine, because I watched his process of healing that was so spectacular, watching the body and the process and how it actually can heal with just a little drop of energy medicine. So this whole experience changed the course of my life. And then, you know, then I began with professional work in animal communication. I became certified in homeopathy and started working with people and animals. And you know, the beginning, you asked what it was like in the beginning, and you know, the human condition is such that we're unsure, and here we're in territory where we're talking to an animal who, according to our culture, they don't have any intelligence. So you must be great. So it was a bit of a challenge, and that was the inner battle and the inner confidence in myself, which I had to kind of gain. And that comes with experience. It comes with practice, because what are we actually doing here? We're building our intuitive muscle. We're going back to our original blueprint of understanding the mechanism of nature and the energetic way that it communicates to us constantly. And it really, you know, this work has, and it forces you to follow the drum of the beat of nature, the rhythm of nature. And in that, we just simply have to quiet the noise in the head. We have to come into the heart. And it is with the heart that you hear. It isn't with the projection or the judgment or the ways many of us were raised. And I had a traumatic background so much trauma in my early days. And I think that in some way, opened me to a healing in a way that I can truly hear and be empathic.
Well, what's amazing to me is when I landed on your website and I clicked about, of course, which is what I always do. I'm like, who is this person? Does this feel like a good energetic fit for Let's Talk to Animals? And I read that you've dedicated your whole adult life to exploring your inner world. And I was like, she's a perfect fit. Like, she's a perfect fit for me. She's a perfect fit because it feels like to have the courage to set that intention and put it out there. It's like we have this outer world that can be so noisy and so distracting and also so wonderful and so inspiring. But we also have this inner world that often gets ignored, neglected. And I'm so inspired by Sweet Dreams and his courage to continue communicating with you and sharing what he wanted and sharing what he needed. And I feel like our animals, when their health falters or their well-being suffers in some way, not only do they teach us how we can best serve them by looking outside of what's in front of us and inside us going, but this just doesn't, I know it's what somebody else, what an expert is telling me. I know it's, it's what's out there. It's in every direction I turn, but yet something in me says there's something else behind all that noise. There's something else out there, but we first have to go in here to even sense that we need to keep searching. We need to keep looking. And ultimately, I mean, for me, so much of my work with my own animals and the love that fuels that has brought me back inside myself to realize, wait a minute, I can do a better job taking care of myself too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And somehow if I don't do a really good job or the best job I'm capable of in each moment as I learn and as I grow, then my ability to connect with my animals and really be open, not just to give the love, but to receive their love, that actually I've found takes a lot more courage to actually receive their love, to receive their wisdom, to receive their guidance, and to realize that I really need them a lot more than they need me in so many ways. We call them pets because I think it helps us maintain that feeling of independence and self-reliance that's so prized in Western culture today. But in reality, pretty much most of I know if if a solar flare knocked out our power grid and you sent me and our dachshund Flash Gordon out in the backyard for dinner to forage up our dinner, I know who would still be hungry and who would be totally full and happy. So it's like it's quite an illusion that our animals are as dependent on us and I don't know where this is coming from, but it just feels like there's so much deep respect in your connection with Sweet Dreams. And I wanted, you and I talked just before I pushed record about your book, Sweet Dreams. And I did not realize that you were in Brooklyn. So I would love, and your book is really targeted more towards young readers. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Sweet Dreams, how a talking horse, Sweet Dreams, the talking horse, Sweet Dreams, the talking horse from Brooklyn. So could you share a little bit more, because is he still with you?
No, he actually isn't. In fact,
Okay.
the picture behind me is his spirit, that when I moved to Arizona, his spirit appeared on the window with his buddy Dusty. So it encompasses the animal, and the guidance continues in spirit. And actually, when after he passes, when I decided to write this book, because I felt that actually, he corrects me actually in this moment, is that he decided to write this book and he actually narrated the book, because the truth is the book is a version of the story that I just told, but it was really meant for children, because I felt that the children really, the younger, Sweet Dreams quotes, children and animals are the future of the world. And that to catch the children at this age so that they can come up understanding that they need to communicate from the heart, and that it's the children who actually know how to do this best. And if you take the time to listen, you'd be amazed what the animals have to tell us. In fact, I'm in the process of creating an online class for children
Fantastic.
with the book to learn, to understand the dynamic of what they organically feel. And so that in hopes that the parents can kind of support that, as opposed to ignore it and push it away and push them out into the world where there's all the noise, because they need to have that grounding first and then proceed. And his story just really talks about his experience of meeting me and how he decided to teach me how to talk to animals.
Mhm. And I mean, how many little kids are just horse crazy? And I mean, if I know if I'd walked into the classroom when I was young and there was a horse as my teacher, I would have been like, yes, like this class, I'm going to pay attention, right? And here's something really fun. Like I've actually been teaching a small group of students. I've just started a course myself, launched my first course, and calling it the Animal Communication Adventure. And we've been talking about how to get out of the head space, which is what you just mentioned, really having to quiet the mind and drop into the heart space. And I'm just going to throw something out there for those listeners or watchers who have kiddos, and maybe you kind of have noticed that they seem to be a little bit what maybe we used to call fey, or very intuitive, or kind of in their own heart space, or just picking up on just sensory things that maybe you've been too busy to really tune into. Spending time with our children is a great way. If you're also aspiring, or if you're interested in just experiencing what animal communication feels like when it's happening to you, spending time with our kids is a great way to drop us into our heart space. It's a beautiful way to recapture the joy, the imagination, the sense of wonder and curiosity that opens us up to receiving messages on all of our radio stations, or all of our intuitive pathways. And so that kind of leads us into the next question that I always like to ask guests here on Let's Talk to Animals is, what does it feel like for you? How do you know you're doing it? Obviously, Sweet Dreams was like willing to yell and get your attention at first. And often we do, we'll have that one pivotal moment. And I love how you can go back to that even now, and you can say that was the moment. And many of us have that, but not all of us do. Some of us have, it feels a little more subtle. And so I'd love for people that are new, or maybe students that are just learning, because this podcast gets a lot of people who are just tiptoeing into that, and they're not sure if it's their imagination or if there's wishful thinking versus. So could you share more about and what pathways, where should I look, where is the information going to come from, that kind of thing? Could you share a little bit more about your, how it feels for you?
Absolutely, because I think, if we just back up a second to all of the questions that you asked,
If we really take a note,
those questions are coming from your head. Those questions aren't coming from your heart. So to get an answer to those questions, you have to go to your head. This I can tell you, when you drop into that heart space, it's silent. It's a pause. It's a moment where the noise stops, and it's a nanosecond. So what I would encourage is to practice observing when that occurs, because that's where the information can be had. That's where the sensations are felt. It's in the silence. And we as a human group, I mean, it is a human condition to question in that way. But to notice when you're questioning, so that, because if you don't notice, you can't stop yourself. Or you can't say, oh, now I need to observe, or even take a breath. Because it comes in with the breath, and you breathe into your heart, and really, in every sense of you, to really, aspire to be in your heart and just see what comes. And it's practice, and it doesn't come overnight because of the human condition. So we do these classes whereby, the information is in the pause. And believe, and when I say in the beginning, just assume the information you get is correct, because it probably is. And rather than take it to what is it? Oh, did I get it? Is it, could it be? Could that pop? Because that's the static that knocks the message out of the box. And then the animals go, oh, well, she's at it again. Okay, so next time maybe, but they will, if you're not sure, ask again. I got this message. Is this what you're actually telling me? And see what comes back. Ask a question, see what comes back. How are you doing today? And not with your observation. See what comes back into your heart. This is a heart-based, heart to heart, your spirit to their spirit. So it is actually your higher self and their higher selves that are actually doing the communicating. So it's a spirit to spirit, which is why when they pass, you can communicate in exactly the same way, because when they're in their body, it's really the higher aspect of the being that we're communicating with. But we have this container of this physicality, this body, that we as humans can relate to better, but it is a spirit to spirit communication. And in that, you will organically slow down. Just in setting the intention to observe when the noise volume is too high. Oh, little high. Let me take a breath. Calm down, see what I get. The judgment, put the hammer down. The judgment we have around ourselves. I didn't do it right. The message didn't come in correctly. This is a very vast energetic field, a palette in which the information is not linear. So it's going to come in as a sense. It's going to come in as a vibration. It's going to come in as an inner knowing. It's not going to come in as it may. I mean, the first message came in from as in English, because it was very clear, but our English, let's pay attention now, our words are energy before they're words. So language is energy. And so it's an energetic vibration that you really focus on and focus mostly in your heart, because your heart will always take you there.
Beautiful. Those of you who are watching the vlogcast just watched me nod for like 10 minutes because I was so resonating with everything you're sharing. And it's true. I often tell my students, animal communication is what happens in the space between our thoughts. And when the brain, I often use the example of our dachshund when he gets a hold of something that, smells really good to him. And that's what happens. Our mind will get excited and jump on the data, or the information, or the phrase, or the smell, and it'll start picking it apart. Okay, is it dangerous to us? Okay, this is very intriguing. Okay, is it real? Okay, did I really smell that? Did I really hear that? Did I really see that? And just testing it out all over and making sure it's something that, we should be dealing with. But the more we can, just listening to you, I can feel myself dropping into that heart space and out of those. We just had a class last night, and so many of those beginner level type questions are just percolating around in my mind. And what you said, which I feel like is the number one tool to help us deal with our overly excited and anxious, eager minds that want, because our minds, like, it feels to me like my mind really wants to help me, but in attempting to help me, it's actually getting in my way. It's kind of like trying to walk when our dog is right under my feet. Like, I can't, he just wants to be right there in case anything drops, or there's anything good. It's like he wants to make sure that I know that he's there. And it's like, but you're going to trip me, this is not helpful. Then I won't be able to get to the refrigerator, So I feel like when you mentioned the breath, just stopping to take a breath, and it feels so simple. And yet when you did that, and those of you who are watching and listening, maybe just rewind to that moment, because you took a big, deep breath and just breathe along with Donna and just take that in breath, let it out, and notice how you get this little pocket of quiet. Yes. And that's why I love you're brave to share that you've dedicated your adult life to exploring your inner worlds, because there's a lot there. There's a lot of ways we can help ourselves weather the kinds of storms that are going on in our world today. with all of the animal species, with our own species, you know. And I would love to hear a little bit more about how communicating with animals has changed your inner landscape, and how does it help you? How does it help you to kind of navigate when these, like right now, we have a war going on, and we have global warming going on, and we have whole communities of non-human animals that are at risk as a result of various things that, you know, we have kind of instigated. And how does it help you, or does it help you feel more empowered or more connected to? Because there's so many reasons that someone might want to start communicating with animals. And that's, I feel like, the big mystique, or the big misnomer, if you will. It's like the only reason you would want to communicate with animals is because you want to hang out and shingle and do it professionally. It's like there are so many reasons, you know, like you shared at the beginning, your initial passion for it revolved around sweet dreams, you know. So I mean, how has that unfolded over the years, where, because I feel like there are viewers or listeners who are interested in doing it professionally, but there are also many others. In fact, some of my students are interested in helping at their local rescue charity, or they're running their own, or they want to do something with environmental activism or ecotourism to you know, and be involved and bring the animal's voice forward. Maybe not always, we don't always have to advertise how we know. So, you know, how do you guide students who come and they're like, I kind of want to learn, but I don't really know why. I don't have a good, you know, the mind again wants a good reason. It's like, do we need a reason to learn?
You know, in my experience, I see that resolving the inner conflicts within each of us is the only way to resolve what our outer world is reflecting only what is happening within each of us. And it becomes, I felt it became my job, my responsibility to understand that dynamic of this soul, of this purpose, and to find peace within this heart, because then that's what resonates out there. Because to go out there and try to fix it, and everyone has a specific purpose. And in that silent place, in that place of quiet, you will kind of establish what your work is. And I may say that it was my passion for horses that brought me to this work. And it was my passion, and this was a soul that, you know, I had an agreement with, that he would guide me. You know, he said to me one day, I do not come to the material very often, he said to me, but if I didn't come this time around, you weren't going to get it. And I just, again, stood here, because how true was that? I wasn't going to get any of that heart medicine from any species, from any human being, from any person except him. And it was the driving force. So what I would say is, follow your passion. You've got a passion for animals. Your passion will lead you to your purpose. That's just a given. If you stay, you know, with that, we don't know, you know, we don't know exactly. We're not going to know the first day. Just follow that lead. Your soul is leading you in that direction, and just stay with it until it becomes clear, because it will. It absolutely will.
What beautiful advice. So let's talk a little bit about, because I love how, you know, sometimes I think to myself, okay, we've got a war going on. We've got a planet that's, you know, at least from the temperature here in Texas is going up in flames. And yet, you know, I'm so irritated. I struggle to be nice to the customer service agent on the phone. And it's like, wait a minute, am I starting a war? You know, let's go back home and ask myself, how can I just be patient and peaceful in this one little tiny first world problem that I'm dealing with right now? Not only does that, it makes my day better, it makes me feel better about being me, but I just can't help but believe just what you said, that it has a ripple effect that flows to the people and the beings in my immediate space, and then that maybe alters or changes, or at least supports them to maintain a higher frequency and more peace. And then it's a little ripple effect. And I love what Einstein said. He said, either nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. I'm like, I prefer option B. Thanks. I'm going to go with option B.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit. Of course, we're getting close to the end of our time together, and it's been such a joy. But let's talk a little bit about, when you started. I have this sneaking suspicion that, when you looked around to locate someone who could maybe help you unpack your gift or unfold your abilities or learn more about what it means to be an interspecies communicator and an empath, you probably had a little bit of a hard time finding a mentor or a guide, but that is not the case today. We have so many, and this podcast features many, many incredible cutting edge intuitives, empaths, leaders in the fields of holistic animal care and whole pet wellness and whole being wellness. And so, could you just speak to a little bit about that anxiety that comes up today? I see it in a lot of people, like, who should I pick? How should I pick my teacher? Again, it's that head stuff. It's like, how important even is that? If maybe you pick the right teacher versus the wrong teacher versus, what guidance would you give to a student who's kind of in the middle of that process right now?
I would say that if you're drawn to a specific being, then follow that, because that draw, we're each communicator that is out there, each professional communicator, has a specific designated amount of souls that we're really, it's a soul agreement before we even get here. So if you're drawn to someone, you're looking at 12 websites and you're drawn to one in particular, I would say the key word here is trust yourself. Trust that your pick is going to be accurate, because ultimately your soul doesn't miss. There are no mistakes. We just interpret that as a mistake, but a mistake can very often be the greatest lesson of your life. And it's not a mistake. So you can't go wrong. It's just like receiving information from the animals. It's never really incorrect. It's going to be interpreted by your filter. But trust here is the word that comes to mind. You're sort of guided in something, resonate with one particular person. Go with it. Trust yourself.
And also, I love that, because animal communication for me, I often talk about my very first experience doing it. And I distinctly remember, and when I say doing it, I mean studying with a formal teacher. And I remember thinking, because I was I came to it later in life. I'm 50. I can't remember if I'm 51 or 52, but I'm somewhere in there. And I came to it, later in life, and I thought, oh, geez, I hope I'm not going to be the only one in this program that can't hear the animals. And I remember my first experience, and it just blew my mind away. It quieted my mind simply because the impact of it reached me on a deeper level. And I felt like, first of all, my first thought was, everyone can do this. And I immediately thought about launching a podcast, because that's in my wheelhouse. And my second thought was, I have never felt more alive. And I have actually learned that I am more trustworthy than I thought I was by being willing to take this journey, even though I love what you shared, because the first teacher that I picked didn't end up being what I would call my forever teacher, but I feel like she was the perfect teacher to get me started and give me a structure. I've gone on to study with many different teachers. I'm in a very intensive course right now with a wonderful teacher. I feel like I will probably be learning. Mentoring has always been a huge thing for me. And so, taking a look at, just trusting your gut in that moment and recognizing that tomorrow or, next week, or when you're done with that course, your gut may give you different guidance. And it's about staying present. And I love that, to just be like, this is the experience that I feel like my heart is saying yes to right now. And so I really want to encourage those of you who are listening to the podcast or watching the vlogcast, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, there are so many amazing people. And Donna, you are one of them. And it may just be, you want to pick somebody that has a particular passion for the same species of animal that you have a particular passion for. Maybe it is the format. Maybe you prefer in person, maybe you prefer online, maybe you prefer self-paced versus live on Zoom. And these kinds of things can also factor in learning. Again, it's about learning, what is your ideal learning style even?
Exactly.
And so, but I just want to encourage everyone, and I feel like Donna, you're doing the same thing. Like never allow your brain to say, oh, there's so many animal communicators. Look at all the animal communicators on Let's Talk to Animals. The market's crowded, all those things that the mind says to us in our busy, web driven world today. It's like, no, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, see how many animals there are who have never had the invitation from a human, who are maybe even screaming out their story and nobody can hear them. It's like there will never be enough interspecies communicators to meet the need and the demand for connection and communication and mentoring and learning. And so if you feel even the slightest bit interested, we really want you on board. Whether you choose to, Donna, I noticed you have a free class coming up. I think it may be, I think by the time,
25th.
yeah, and by the time we get this recording up, that will have passed. Is that something that you do periodically or quarterly?
Absolutely. I do an extra amount during this month because this was the month that my horse passed. But I will be doing bi-monthly, and kind of you'll see on the site, Ask Me Anything.
I did see that. I was going to ask you about that.
And that's going to ask you. Because I cover such a wide range of topics, the homeopathic medicine and animal communication and the intuitive healing. So, anything that you have a question about, I'm going to be doing that monthly and or bi-monthly as well.
Fantastic. And you've also got a really robust number of different workshops that sound absolutely fascinating. Again, it's Donna Lozito, LOZITO.com, and I'll put that in the show notes. And there's lots of ways to communicate with you. And I would suggest, especially if you're listening and you've got kiddos, start with your book, because because it just activates the heart so powerfully. I actually have a book too, and I don't have it handy right now, but it's called Love and Feathers. No surprise there. What a palm-sized parrot has taught me about life, love, and healthy self-esteem. And guess who it's about? Those of you who are listening and you just heard a series of what sounded like, that's exactly what it was. It was belly kisses on a certain soft gray feathery belly. And so, and it's actually, it can be even automatic writing is another form. So if you love to write, if you are a budding author, you have that aspiration to even do fiction stories. I mean, learning interspecies communication is an amazing complement to any kind of creative gift, any kind of creative outpouring. There's so many ways that you can help, and that's a whole separate topic. You can also go to animallovelanguages.com and head over to Learn with Me. And there are several free tools. There's a 5-day animal communication camp where you can learn some of the major pathways through which animals do send us intuitive data, a 4-part intuitive pet parent series that you can learn how to pick up information specifically from your own animals, and lots of other fun tools. And most importantly, you can find the link to all of our podcast episodes and our vlogcast episodes. You can find the direct links to listen in. You can listen and watch this video. And Donna, I'm so appreciative of your time today and your amazing heart for animals and for horses. I have never had an opportunity to spend much time with horses. My life has pretty much revolved around avians and tortugans, turtles, beings with feathers and shells, right? Too many shells, right? He says, Mom, way too many shells. So not enough feathers, but so I always adore the opportunity to feature different species here on Let's Talk to Animals. And, if you're watching and you're listening today or at any time, thank you so much again for sharing your time, your energy, and your attention and your love for animals with us. Please reach out to us. You can receive free weekly and monthly mailings. You can learn about free offerings. If you have questions, we're always happy to chat with you over email. And please do consider sharing this episode with someone who loves horses as much as Donna does and who might enjoy reading a Sweet Dreams story for themselves and for the younger set. Please consider leaving us a 5-star or a 50-star rating if that's available in your area, and subscribing so that you never miss an episode. Oh, and of course, you can always visit us on YouTube and on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts and all those, in Anchor.fm, I think it is, and all those good places to learn more about all things animal communication, and send in your questions and requests, and we will do our utmost to meet you where you are and share the information that you're craving about animal communication. Okay, thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome. Take good care.
Reeves, who I feel was present with us today, and thank you to you, our listeners and viewers. And we will be back with you next week with another fresh new episode, and with all the joy and the love for animals in our hearts. Okay, bye for now.
Bye now. Thanks so much.